These are the assembly instructions for the Quench Your Thirst Advent Calendar. So I'm going to start by assembling the little houses that have 5 boxes in them, and there are 4 of these. I have 2 versions. One version has the support pieces cut out of craft board, and the second version has the support pieces cut out of chipboard. I'm going to have them in 2 separate files because different machines can cut different types of materials. So I'm showing you how to assemble the one with the craft board to begin with. So I've already assembled one. I need to assemble a second one exactly the same way. I have all these octagon shapes, and I have little tabs that go around the perimeter of my octagon shapes, and I'm just folding down on all those score lines to form those tabs. My base piece is cut out of 80-pound cardstock, and it really doesn't matter what color you use. So now that I've folded down on all those tabs, I'm just going to temporarily push them towards the center of the shape. Then I'm going to take one of my craft board pieces, and I'm going to add glue to the entire surface. And then I'm just laying the piece down on top of my cardstock piece. I want all the edges to be even. Because of the size of this piece, there's a part of the top that won't be covered, and that's totally fine. So these tabs are just at the edge of every single one of those octagon shapes. And then I'm going to flip my piece over. So I've got an identical piece that's cut out of craft board, and I'm covering it with glue, gluing it the base, making sure that all the edges are nice and even. So all 3 layers should be stacked up on top of one another. So this forms one of the 2 structural pieces that I have. I've already assembled one. They both go together the exact same way. For the craft board version, there are 6 pieces that look like this and that are cut out of craft board. So these are the last 2. So I'm just putting glue all over one of them and gluing it to that second piece of craft board. Next I have a piece that's cut out of 80-pound cardstock, and it too has those score lines to form tabs, and I'm just folding down on all of them for all 5 holes. And then I'm going to temporarily flatten those tabs. So those 2 pieces of craft board that I've glued together, I'm covering one side with glue and then carefully gluing it to my white cardstock. And I want the edges to meet up exactly. So next I have these shapes that are similar but not the same. I've got these scored octagons with tabs all the way around, and then I have some with just 5 tabs. Ones with 5 tabs I'm going to put aside for now. I'm using 2 with tabs all the way around, and then I have 2 types of rectangles with score lines from edge to edge. I'm going to take the longer version, folding down on all the score lines and the tabs on the octagon shapes as well. So I have a thin tab on one side. I've put glue from the score line to the edge. I'm laying it flat, bringing the other end over, and the cut edge of the other end has to be right along the score line of my tab, and the top and the bottom are flush with one another. And then I'm going to take one of my octagons with the tabs all the way around. I'm going to put glue on one of the tabs, so my tabs are turned upwards. The tab fits right between one set of score lines, so right between the 2 lines for my scores. So the edge of this piece is right along the score line. And then I'm going to put glue on the tab that's right across from the one I've just glued down, making sure that none of these tabs are folded inwards. And I'm just gluing that tab down onto my shape like so. So the edge of this piece is right against the score line. And then I'm going to put glue on all 6 of the remaining tabs. I have my hand on the inside. I'm applying pressure as I push down on the tabs. So I have 5 of these, and I'm going to put all 5 together the same way. And then I have a short panel. I'm folding down on all the score lines for it. And so these are the end caps for this piece. I've got one that has a little hole at the bottom of it, and the other one is solid. So I'm putting glue on that center tab in my short panel, and then 2 panels, and I'm gluing this down. So I'm gluing that center tab down, so between the score lines. The score line to my tab is right against the cut line of my rectangular piece. And next I'm just going to glue down the remaining tabs, and I want the edge to be right against the score line and the tab to fit right between the score lines on my rectangular piece. I'm going to take that second piece, the one that doesn't have the hole in the bottom, and I'm putting glue on that central tab. So there's 2 tabs up to my left and 2 tabs to my right. Gluing that central tab to the middle tab on my rectangle. And then I'm putting glue on the 4 remaining tabs And I'm gluing them in place, so I want my score lines to be right on the corners of that octagon. So once I've glued both ends on, I'm going to temporarily fold these upper flaps outwards like so. And I'm taking 5 pieces of craft board. I'm covering the underside in glue and then just gluing each one of these down in between each set of score lines. So that decorates and it strengthens the bottom of my box. So once I've glued in all 5 of them, I'm just going to put glue on the edge. So just fold them inwards and then make sure that they're properly stuck down. So I have 5 of these. I'm going to do exactly the same thing with all 5 of them. So next I'm moving on to the rest of my white cardstock that's going to form the walls of my little house. I'm just folding down on the tabs on the sides for the 2 larger pieces. This is the roof piece and it has tabs on all 4 sides. And then I have the bottom piece and it has tabs on all 4 sides as well. So next I'm going to go back to my structural pieces. 2 of these are not going to be seen. They're going to be inside. That's why I've used craft board that doesn't necessarily match with the rest. I'm going to take one of my octagonal shaped boxes and I'm just going to insert it inside one of the openings. I'm going to move down to the 2 others and you can just sort of squeeze them in and then flatten them out. The flat sides of these boxes have to fit against the flat side of the opening. So I'm just lowering my panel. So that's the view from the side. I have my second panel and I'm doing the exact same thing with it. Squeeze your boxes a little bit and then just insert them and they'll pop right back into shape. I've got my 2 structural pieces in place. I have my 3rd piece. This is the side that can be seen. So I have my tabs covering those layers of craft board, squeezing my boxes into the openings. My tabs here are overlapping my box. I want them tucked in behind like so. I'm just pushing them back so they're tucked underneath like so. So I have all my tabs hidden. I'm going to start with these 2 at the center and I'm just going to put glue on the tab. Then I'm going to press the side against it. I want the edge of my box to be right at that score line and I want to do that all the way around. I'm just putting glue on the tab and then I'm actually going in from the side and I'm applying pressure so that the tab sticks right at that score line all the way around. This part is going to be seen, so you want to make tabs look as nice as possible. So I'm just doing that for all 8 sides, just gluing the tabs into place. And it's easier to apply the glue on the tab from the top. So I'm doing that for all 8 sides of all 5 boxes. So this piece is my bottom piece. So it has 2 notches on one side, and those notches belong at the front of my box. And then I have one of the side pieces. And so you've got the larger panel and then the smaller panel. There are notches on the same side as my bottom piece. And then there's my other side piece, and it has the notches as well. So with the front of my box away from me, I'm putting glue on the left-hand tab. The notches are all on the same side, gluing the cut edge to the score line of the tab. Just putting glue from the score line to the edge on that tab. And then I'm taking my side piece. The cut edge of this piece is right on my score line of my tab. And the score lines at the top and at the bottom are even. This is the bottom of my box. This is the panel where I'm going to be gluing the bottom. I'm putting glue all along the notched tab at the front. I'm placing my box. The edges of the front panel are right up against the score lines on both sides. And then I'm just going to raise up that tab, making sure that the bottom of my box is right along the score line. So the joins on each side are right at the edges of my front panel. So now I have my box upside down, so it's standing on the roof. I'm taking those tabs that are at the bottom and I'm just threading them through the cutouts that are at the bottom of my box. So I'm just going in there and grabbing those tabs and just pushing them through the slots at the bottom of my box. And then I'm putting a little bit of glue on each one of those tabs and I'm folding them over and flattening them to the bottom of my box like so. making sure they're nice and tight, and I'm doing that with all 4 of them. So now that I've glued those down, I'm going to flip my piece over. I have the back of my house towards me. I'm threading the 2 sets of tabs through the holes on the side of my house, and then the 2 that are part of the roof. I'm pulling them so they're all the way through, and then I'm folding them over. I've glued these 4 tabs down. I'm going to put glue on my front tab. I want the fold right along the score line. Just glue that whole tab right along that score line to the front. And then I have the 2 tabs for the roof. Putting glue on them and folding them towards one another as well. Now I'm going to flip my piece over, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to insert my tabs. You may have to reposition your support pieces just in case they've moved a little. And then I'm putting glue on the underside of those tabs and gluing them down to my box base. And then I've got that front tab. I'm putting glue all over it and gluing it to the left-hand side of my house. And then I'm inserting those top pieces, and I'm going to fold those down and glue them into place. And then I have my 2 tabs at the top. I'm putting glue from the score line to the edge, and then making sure that score line is following the edge on both sides. So I'm looking at the back of it now. I'm just going to put glue all along that bottom tab. My craft board color is white, flush against both sides and the bottom, gluing that down. And I'm folding these tabs all along outwards, folding the back panel back into position. I'm putting glue from the score line to the edge, folding it over and gluing it to the top of my house, putting glue all along from the score line to the edge, and then folding over. There's the panel for the top. You want the notched piece to go at the front, so I'm putting glue all along from the score line to the edge of the notched tab at the front. Got the tab at the back, I'm gluing it on. And then there's the flaps on either side. So there's the base of my box. Now I just need to decorate it. So now I'm going to decorate the panels for my house. I'm going to start with the windows and the door. So for the door piece, I have my base piece, which is cut out of silver craft board. Then I have a beige cardstock piece. It has a bit of a shimmer to it, and I'm just gluing it down. I've adhered the grid to blue cardstock, and I'm gluing that to my front door. And then I have a panel, so I have score lines showing me exactly where to position the 4 windows and the door. I'm putting glue on the back of the door and just positioning it within the score lines that are on my panel. Then I have my windows. I have 4 windows for that front panel, and then I have 2 windows that are for the roof. And the ones for the roof are slightly smaller. So this is some holographic foil cardstock, and this is some off-white cardstock that has a bit of a shimmer to it. And I'm just matching them up and gluing them down. So I'm just going to glue those down. So next I have the decorative panel with all the cutouts for the boxes, and I'm just going to glue that down. I'm turning over to the right hand side of my box. I have a plain panel that fits just over the side. I'm going to glue that down. I have a decorative panel to put on top, but since my decorative panel is pretty much the same color as my craft board, for this one, I'm just going to cover it with my navy blue cardstock. So I'm just gluing that into place. And so then on the left side of my box, I'm going to glue down my decorated panel, so the one with the little doors and the windows. And so next we're going to work on the roof pieces. The first thing I'm going to do is make the little chimney. So this is my chimney piece, and I just folded down on all the score lines, including the 2 diagonal tabs on either side. I'm going to fold the short end over and put glue all over that tab. And then I'm going to fold over the other end. And then I'm going to take my roof piece that has the cutout. I'm going to insert my box inside. So I've got, this is the top of my roof, this is the top of my chimney. And then I have my 4 tabs that glue into the interior like so. I'm going to start with that top tab. I'm putting glue all over it, and I'm folding it right against the edge, making sure that it's nice and straight. And then the bottom tab, so the score line of my bottom tab has to be right at the cut out for my roof piece, like so. I'm going to put glue on both of those side tabs, and then I'm going to flatten them to my roof. So I'm using my bone folder just to spray the glue on those tabs. So I'm putting glue on the underside of that tab from the score line to the edge. And then my score line is right at the fold of my roof. There's a little bit of overhang on either side. So I'm putting glue all over that panel, including my chimney tabs. And then I'm folding my roof piece down and adhering it to the top of my box. Next I have my little dormer pieces. I've got 2 of them, and I'm just folding down on the score lines. So I'm going to grab one of the windows that I've prepared. Now these are the smaller sized windows. I'm putting glue on the back of them and then gluing them to my dormer piece. It should just fit within the score lines. I've got these 2 tabs in the center. I'm putting a little bit of glue on the top of those 2 tabs. I'm folding this piece over so that the tab is exactly along the score line, like so. So I'm tucking that tab inwards, and so the edge of that long piece has to go right along the score line. Then I'm putting glue all along that long piece and on the remaining tab that's underneath it. And then I'm folding that front triangle over, like so. I'm going to do that on the other side as well, putting glue on those 2 tabs and then folding that front section, that front triangle over. So I'm doing that with both my dormer pieces. Then I have my little roof pieces for my dormers. So I'm just folding down on all the score lines for them. So I have the tab at the back and I have 2 little triangles at the front. I'm going to put glue on both of those triangle pieces. And then I'm just folding the cut edge of this side right onto the score line on both sides. So the cut edge of this panel goes right up to the score line. And then I'm folding in the short tab that's at one side and then putting glue on the short tab and bringing the long tab over so that the edge of the long tab is right along the score line. So then I have this front flap. So I'm putting glue on the underside of it and just folding it under. And then when I turn it around, I have the open end of it. So I'm going to assemble the second one the exact same way. Next I'm going to take my roof piece. So I've got the larger slots on the bottom and the smaller slots on the top. I've already folded down on the score line that's at the top of my piece. So I'm inserting the tab that's at the bottom into my roof piece. I'm going to flip my piece over. I'm going to put glue on the back of my tab, making sure that my dormer is nice and straight. I'm going to fold that tab over like so and glue it to the base. And then I'm putting glue all over the back of my dormer window and then gluing that to my roof. Then I have the roof to my dormer window. I'm inserting this tab into the cutout on my roof piece. Put glue on the back of the tab. And I'll fold it down onto the panel. And then I'm putting glue on the top of my dormer and then just gluing my rooftop to the dormer. I'm going to do that exact same thing with the second one. I'm putting glue on the underside of the tab that's at the top. So I'm just gluing it to the roof of my house, making sure that it's even. I'm putting glue all over that roof part of the base. And then I'm just gluing that down. So then there's the piece that goes on the top. So I'm just covering it with glue. And then I'm just going to glue it to the top. Now I have the little boxes that fit into my house. These are the panels that are going to go on top of them. So I've got a layer of craft board and I have a layer of cardstock. This is patterned cardstock. And I'm going to adhere the panel to my craft board base. I'm just making sure the 2 holes are on top of one another. So then I have these decorative silver brads. So the head of the brad is about 3/8 of an inch. So I'm taking the end of my box that has the hole in it and putting glue all over that octagon shape. And then I'm taking my panel and I'm positioning it so that the holes are all stacked up on top of one another exactly. I'm going to flip my piece over and I'm just making sure that my box is nice and straight on my panel. So I want the sides here to be parallel on all 4 sides. That hole is still open for me to fit my brad through. Using my Cricut tool, I'm opening the pins of my brad over my Cricut tool because I want my brad to stick out a little bit. I don't want it flat against the surface. I've used some of the scrap paper from my boxes, just hand cut a rectangle that's approximately 1/2 inch by 1.5 inches. I put some red tape all over the surface and I'm just putting it over the back of my brad just to keep my brad from opening. So then this goes in like a drawer, and I'm going to finish off all 4 of the remaining boxes exactly the same way. And then I have my numbers, and I've used more of that foil craft board, and I've layered them with vinyl, and I've cut the numbers out of the vinyl so that the backing shows through. I'm not going to adhere them right away. I want to finish the entire advent calendar before I glue them on. So for the alternate file, the second file, instead of using 6 pieces of craft board, I'm using 3 pieces of chipboard. I've cut my chipboard on a Maker 3. So this is how I place my chipboard on my mat. Of chipboard is 11 by 11, but the piece that's cut out of chipboard is very close to 11 inches in length. I'm putting my piece of chipboard 1/2 inch from the beginning of the grid on the left hand side and 1/2 inch down from the top. It's more the top that you're worrying about. When I position my piece in design space, I'm going to move it over past the 1 inch mark on the left hand side and down 1/2 inch from the top on my design space screen using a purple mat and the knife blade. So this is my 80-pound cardstock, so this will be the front of my box. I'm just putting glue all along my chipboard, and I'm adhering it to my panel with the 5 cutouts, just like I did for the other version. So for the chipboard version, for the structural pieces inside, we just need 1 piece of chipboard, and I'm gluing the piece of chipboard to the cardstock just like I did for the previous piece. And so the rest of the house goes together pretty much the same way. So next I'm going to work on the little 4 standalone houses. I have 2 pieces that make up the walls of the houses, and I'm just folding down on all the score lines. So I'm gluing down the door and the 3 windows, and I'm using the score lines on this panel to show me exactly where they belong. Next I'm putting glue on the tab that's on the side, and I'm gluing my second panel, making sure that the score lines at the top and the bottom are even, and the cut edge of my panel is right against the score line of my tab. I've got the bottom of my box towards my left hand side, and I'm flipping my piece over. I'm putting glue on the flaps that are on my right hand side, so this is the top of my box. I'm just gluing down the one at the top and the 2 others. I'm leaving this one intact. I'm just rotating my piece, flip over this panel and put glue on my tab, and then I'm folding over the other end and joining the cut edge of that decorated piece to the score line of my tab. The score lines at the top and the bottom should be even, so I'm putting glue on that one remaining flap, turning it inwards, and I'm just going in with my bone folder and making sure to spread that glue. So now I'm going to flip my box over. I'm looking at the bottom of it. 2 of my panels have little wedges cut out of them, and 2 of my panels are straight. So I'm going to fold down one of the panels that has the wedge in it, and I'm putting glue all over it, and then I'm folding the panel that's on the back. So I've got the front door here, and this is the back. I'm going to fold that one down. So I want to make sure that the edge of that panel is right along the score line of my box. Then I'm putting glue all over the panel that has the wedge cut out of it, the one that has the 2 windows, and I'm just going to fold it down, and I want the edge of it to be against the score line as well. And then I'm putting glue on the last remaining panel. Now this is the panel that has the front door adjacent to it. Pull that one down, and I'm going to flip my piece over, and I'm going in there with my bone folder and just spreading that glue. So next I have the octagonal encasing, just like the 5 others from the larger house. So I'm just doing exactly the same thing to assemble it. I'm just covering the bottom of it in glue, and then I'm just lowering it into my box, like so. And then I'm using my bone folder to spread that glue. So next I'm working on the roof pieces. I have 2 identical pieces. I'm just folding down on the score lines. So next I'm putting glue on the side tab and gluing my 2 pieces together. So the cut edge of the piece on my right has to be on the score line of my tab. So next I'm going to put glue from the score line to the edge on this diagonal score. And then cut edge of that trapezoid shape is right against the score line of the one beside it, like so. And I'm doing that for the 2 others beside it as well. And then I'm putting glue on those 2 remaining tabs, and then I'm sealing up my shape. Next I have these flaps all around the perimeter of my roof piece. These are to reinforce my roof piece. So I'm just putting glue all over them and then folding them over and adhering them to the inside. And I'm doing that with all 4 of them. And then I have the little piece that's for the top. I'm just folding down on the score lines for all 4 sides. I'm going to put glue the score line to the edge on one side. I'm adhering it to the top of my roof. And then I'm putting glue on the 3 other tabs and just gluing them down. Next I have my decorative panels for my rooftop. I've put a square on the top and I have these trapezoid shapes for the 4 sides and these ornamental pieces with the cutouts in them for the lower part. And I'm just going to glue those on. These are 2 of the 4 houses with the drawers, and they each have 2 smaller sized houses to go with them. So this is half my advent calendar right here. And then I have the 2 other houses with their 5 boxes, and then the 2 smaller versions here as well. I'm going to put my advent calendars on 2 platforms. Both platforms measure 11 by 11. So the first platform I've created using 3 layers of cardboard. I've cut them down with my True Control knife to 11 by 11. I have covered them with double-sided tape. I'm just going to adhere this to the top, and that makes a nice thick board. And then for the other one, as an alternative, I've put it on a piece of chipboard. So I've given 2 options, one with chipboard and one with the cardboard. I'm just going to wrap them to make the edges a little bit more attractive. So to wrap my base, I have 2 rectangles with score lines in the center, and I'm folding down on the score line. And then I have 2 pieces that have pointed ends, and I'm just folding down on the score line in the center of those as well. I'm going to put double-sided tape just along the edge. I'm going to remove the liner on my double-sided tape, taking one of those rectangles, so not the pointed ones, but the ones that have straight edges. I'm slipping my cardstock underneath. I want the edges to be even, and then I'm pulling taut and then pressing firmly down. Flipping my piece over, I'm putting double-sided tape along the edge on the other side. I'm removing the liner, folding my edge over like so. I'm going to do the exact same thing on the other side. I'm flipping my piece over, putting my double-sided tape between both white pieces like so, and I'm grabbing my angled edge piece. I'm removing the liner and putting glue just in the triangular part on both ends, pulling on my piece so that it's nice and taut. Flip my piece over, double-sided tape again between the 2 white pieces. I'm adding glue on the triangular parts and then pulling my piece tight like so. So now that I've covered the edges, I'm just going to glue down my pattern paper. Now here you could either use glue or double-sided tape. I think I'm going to use double-sided tape. So I finished off my base piece. So then I have my first house. I've put the number on it. So this is the first box for my advent calendar. The soft drink or the beer can fit nicely inside. And then I have my first of 4 houses. I've adhered my numbers on the boxes for it as well. And so it's going to go on the corner. So I'll have access to the boxes from the right hand side. And then I have one of my Christmas trees, and I'm just going to adhere it to the corner. So it does overlap by a little bit because of the size of the tree. And then I'm rotating my base, and I put the numbers on the boxes for it as well, and I'm just placing it on the other corner. And then I have my little house with the number 7 on it, and then I'm putting my Christmas tree in the corner. I'm just going to glue this down the way that I have it here. So my second set of houses, so the next 12 boxes, are positioned exactly the same way. So you have to make sure that you have access to the box on the right hand side. And I'm just adhering my numbers as I did for the other one. I've got the 13 that goes on the little house, and then the 5 next ones on the boxes that are on my tall house.